Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Films and Stuff podcast. I'm Ethan, joined next to me virtually, most valuable Pete. Hey, Pete, what's up?
Not much, buddy. How are you?
I am good. It has been 1 week since we announced the two shows that we're going to be viewing today, and I think that we were both really looking forward to each of these.
Yes, that's absolutely right.
On our weekly stream or skip episode, I introduce the episode, I introduce you, and then you recount the rules. So before we dive into the reviews, please remind our new listeners, what are the rules of stream or skip?
All right. So Ethan and I prepare lists of TV shows for each other to watch. Every week, we randomly assign each other one new series to watch. We watch at least 2 episodes, and on that basis, we determine if that series is worthy of being streamed or skipped.
Thank you. Now, as I was getting ahead of myself, I was saying that both you and I were really enthusiastic about the shows that we have assigned to each other this week. I had a show on Disney Plus / Hulu or whatever they are now called Paradise. And you had something on Apple TV Plus called The Studio.
Yeah.
You want to dive into The Studio first, and then
Let's do Studio first. So
yeah.
The Studio is a comedy. It's on Apple TV Plus. It's a parody / satire on the Hollywood industry. So similar to how Mythic Quest was an inside look on game development and the games industry, or how Silicon Valley was the satirical look like an IT / tech company in
startup.
Silicon Valley, or a little bit like Entourage was about Hollywood, and stars.
That's right.
This is about Seth Rogen, who plays the number 2 at a film studio called Continental Studios.
Yep.
And in the first episode, within the first 15 minutes, he gets promoted to being the head of the studio after his boss gets fired for a string of failures.
Yeah. So I've watched this as well, so I'll chime in if you don't mind. But we kind of we're introduced to Seth Rogen, and he kind of is the lifer at the studio, and he is, kind of sees himself as this in the weeds, hands-on, sleeves rolled up, executive. And he's not really an executive, but, he's there to support talent and support directors. And he always says, my favorite part is being on the set and getting involved in, the filmmaking itself. And he's kind of like a Quentin Tarantino, believes in, the classical films and, the rewatchables. And,
he's like a fan of classic Hollywood and cinema, but at the same time, he's also enamored by it. He's blinded by it himself.
Yeah.
He's obsessed with being invited to Hollywood parties, which he's never invited to, even though he's the second in command at a studio.
Right.
Right. And he always wants to be on set with directors, with actors, and frankly speaking, they couldn't give a shit about it, right? They just don't care. Because
kind of the opposite, yeah.
They're just like, look, we're here to do our jobs. We're here to do a good job. And all you're doing is getting in the way because you insist on, hobnobbing with actors. You insist on, making a big deal out of yourself, even though you're not, right? So he's kind of like a movie dork. Frankly speaking, he's like me if someone told me, here's the keys to a studio. I would 115% be that same guy. I would want to be like, oh, I love classic cinema. I believe in cinema verite. I'm an artiste. But at the end of the day, what's funny is that that's the direction he wants to take the studio in. But because he's now gotten the studio that's made a string of flops, he's basically been told, here's an IP that we want you to take and make a multi-billion-dollar franchise out of it.
Yep.
And the IP is, of course, Kool-Aid. which is the most hilariously stupid IP you could think of to make, right?
Yeah. Worth mentioning that Bryan Cranston takes the role of Continental's, CEO. So he's kind of, plays some type of caricature of himself, right?
Right.
Who's kind of the boss of Seth Rogen and says, look, this is what we're going to do. And Seth Rogen being pretty, weak-willed in this, obviously, has to be extraordinarily enthusiastic about it and basically swallow the crap that, he's being fed.
Exactly. Right. So he has to be quite balanced. In one hand, he wants to do what he hates doing, which is he has to do what he hates doing, which is, make that franchise film that everybody's going to watch and make $1 billion versus what his true desires are, which is to make a true artistic masterpiece, which will get him ingratiated with the Hollywood royalty.
Yep.
I've watched all 4 episodes that are out as of the time of this recording. I think 5 or 4, maybe 5 episodes are out. I love it. I love it because I'm hardcore interested in the process of making movies and, in the movie industry as it is. Like, I love the behind the scenes everything. And 2, I think it's absolutely hilarious because it's over the top, but not as over the top as something like Mythic Quest was or Silicon Valley. Like, those shows were good, but they quickly wore themselves out for me. And this is balance. It strikes that right balance of what probably does happen behind the scenes in a film studio.
I appreciate that you recommended this to me because, it was assigned to you, and I'm happy I gave it to you because I think it fits with, what you like. And I'm happy that you think it's a must subscribe. You were really enthusiastic about it, so I started watching it. I think I watched 3 of the 4. I know I saw 3 of the 4. I started the 4th. I gave it a mooch, but again, I wouldn't fight you for a must subscribe.
Right.
I found that, let me try to put this in context. I found that the scenarios were very, very funny. Like the way that they set up each episode, kind of jumping from problem to problem. Like the episode where he visits he's on set, like we're not going to do spoilers, but where he's on set and the series of problems that he unintentionally creates.
Yeah.
I thought was so clever and funny. Like I really loved it. And in one point I'm like, oh my God, now it's going to be the car. And I nailed it. And I thought it was so funny. But even though I think that the plots are very funny, I don't find the dialogue to be particularly funny.
Sure.
Like I don't find it to be too crass. I mean, sometimes you have a show and it's too F-bomby or too vulgar or too gross to be funny. I don't really find that here. I just find it's a lot of Seth Rogen kind of like being a little bit loud and Seth Rogen-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not laughing so much at any of the dialogue. I'm more laughing at the plot. And I think the plots are fantastic. So I think I'm a little bit less enthusiastic about calling this a must subscribe. And also, it's very meta. I mean, you're right that this is more of like a Hollywood insider's take on Hollywood.
Yeah.
And kind of like all the drama that probably happens. And I'm sure they're all based on like true stories, or they're a little bit like, there's obviously a lot of truth in some of these things. I don't think anyone just made them up entirely, but it's in a way so kind of meta that it, I don't know, just doesn't like give me the right balance. So I think it's a very good show. Honestly, I liked it. I like Seth Rogen. I like all the people in it, but I don't think I can give it a must subscribe for that reason.
Sure. I get that.
Do you think this is going to be, I mean, there's a lot of cameos, right? Paul Dano, Scorsese, Charlize Theron, Buscemi, Anthony Mackie, Dave Franco, Ron Howard, Olivia Wilde. Do you think this is going to have, so I mean, in that way, it's very similar to, you mentioned Entourage. It's very Entourage-like,
Yeah.
So I think it's fair to say maybe the Seth Rogen's team doesn't have the same, I guess, chemistry as Entourage, because like the Entourage, like those four dudes, like you felt like they were really good friends and they all had like very distinct personalities, right?
Sure.
Like they had all good personalities, but you also felt like they were friends and you kind of understood where they were at. The Seth Rogen executive team, I feel like tries to emulate that formula, but I don't feel really the same connection to them.
I don't know. I really like Catherine Hahn. I think she's
Catherine
killing it.
Hahn, yes. Catherine Hahn, yes, is killing it. Anyway, so do you think there's going to be a season 2 of this? Do you think this is going to be kind of like Entourage in 5 seasons or three
I
seasons?
don't know. Honestly, I don't know because I think it's too early to tell. I
Yeah.
have a sneaking suspicion they could make this run quite some time.
Yeah.
Clearly, the season-long plot is about him making the Kool-Aid movie.
Right.
And I can imagine, like, at the end of it, he's like, it becomes a huge success and he's lauded for it, right? And then Bryan Cranston comes in and he's like, all right, so when are we starting Kool-Aid 2,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Like
then all the different,
the material is definitely there to do sequels if they wanted. I think it just,
absolutely.
do you have any idea what's the critical reaction to this? Have you seen like any?
I haven't, but I haven't been looking either. And
Yeah.
from what I read, One Piece, there was an interview where Seth Rogen said that he had a couple of directors and producers call him up and curse him out because it was too true to life.
Yeah, that's one of these things. If you're a satire and you're too true to form, it can sometimes be a negative.
Yeah.
It's interesting that he's getting like some negative feedback by folks that are, in theory, potential cameos for his show, right?
No, I think it's because, and also like Seth Rogen has always been kind of like a Hollywood outsider, right?
He's
He's
edgy,
not
right?
mainstream. I get like if there was anyone who was going to do this show, kind of show, like it's right that it's him.
Okay. So that is
The Studio on Apple TV Plus.
Apple TV Plus satirical comedy. Okay. Changing gears a little bit. I had something called Paradise
Yeah.
on Hulu slash Disney Plus, whatever it is. And I really thought this rang a bell, but I couldn't kind of picture it until I watched the first episode. And then I was like, oh, yeah, I think I watched a trailer about this. And we've got to say, we can't talk about this without there being spoilers, right? So if you haven't watched this and you don't want spoilers, let me give the rating now. This is a must subscribe.
100%.
It's not going to take long for you to get the plot. It's going to be revealed at the end of episode 1. Don't listen to the rest of this podcast and watch it for yourself. If you have watched it or you don't mind the twist, then stay on and listen in. But
Guys, can you
basically,
believe how much we've matured that we're giving the spoiler alert in so much detail?
yeah, but this is fair because okay, so let's go in. We are brought into this kind of community which I believed was something like Malibu, California-ish, and we meet a Secret Service agent, and he is responsible for the President of the United States. So I am under the impression at this point that the president is former governor of California, for example,
Sure.
and he is back home, for a weekend of, vacation at his own personal home. And very soon we see that, the agent who's Sterling K. Brown,
Yeah.
finds that, well, where's the president? Well, he's not awake yet. Okay. Goes to check in on him and he sees president is just maimed, killed, bloody on his bedroom floor. He's been murdered, right? So of course, they lock it down, trying to get evidence and so forth. All the hallmarks of a murder scene. And at this point, I'm thinking this is about the assassination of a president. Like it's
Yeah.
going to be a proper murder mystery thriller. who killed the president, and we're going to go through all season one, and it's going to be this character, and no, it's this character, and this evidence, and this DNA, and it's going to be CSI in a way.
Yeah.
And the first episode kind of plays out like that, with some little twists and turns, but generally it plays out that way. And then at the end of episode 1, here it is, we find out that the president was not actually on vacation in his private residence in California or some other beautiful beachside city. There is a small underground city in some type of post-apocalyptical world, and he's not really the president of the United States. He's the president of this little bunker. And the killer is now somewhere in this bunker who's taken out the president.
And to give it a little bit of context, when we say a little bunker, we're talking a small city of 25,000 people built
25,000. Yeah.
built into the side of a mountain inside.
Yeah. Yeah.
In Denver or in Colorado somewhere.
Yeah. So there's a lot to unpack here. To me, this is an example of an episode 1 must subscribe.
What a great hook.
If you're writing a series, and we've been critiquing series, even though we're, let's say, amateurs, we've been critiquing a lot of series over the last couple of years, right? And we have this thing which is, hey, maybe you've got a really good show, but it's taking you a long time to get the audience hooked on it. And in this type of, day and age where there's so much competing for attention, whether it's, Instagram or the internet or live sports or other shows that are streaming, you don't have the benefit of taking your sweet time to wait until episode 4 to get me excited. You and I are, to be honest, 1 or 2 episode type of people. And after that, if it's not a must subscribe, like
we're
moving on. I mean, there's a lot of shows that I've considered a mooch that I just don't finish. I think that Paradise is probably one of the best examples I can think of for a show that does it right, saying, hey, we're not here to waste your time. We don't have the benefit of like 3 episodes to have you make up your mind. We're just going to hit you with it right away. And yes or no, are you going to buy a subscription to Hulu?
Yeah.
And after this episode 1, I think that's the model. I think it's absolutely, I've got to see more of this.
Yeah. I mean, I remember messaging you after seeing that first episode because you told me I had to stop everything to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I told you to stop everything you're doing. You stopped everything you're doing. And then you came back to me and said, stop everything you're doing.
This is amazing. I mean, that sequence where it's revealed that they're inside the bunker, and the way they reveal that is with the camera panning up to the ceiling, kind of like with the Truman Show. And you find out that there's this one giant lamp that looks like the artificial sun on a track.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was fantastic. It was really fantastic.
Yeah. So actually they deserve a lot of credit, not just for the plot, but actually for, I don't want to say cinematography, but like how they've shot it, because you're right. There's a way of filmmaking where you don't even need words to get your point across. And that was a great example of how just with a camera moving, you gave the reveal without any words, right?
Yeah.
A lesser filmmaker would have dialogue where someone says, oh, by the way, we live in an underground city, right? But instead of, hitting us in the face with a dialogue, they just used the camera closing credits of that episode to give us the big reveal.
Right,
So
because there was one other clue that didn't make sense. There was one note on a tree somewhere that said sunset is going to be held back by, or there's going to be a delay of 1 hour on sunset this weekend for maintenance. And you're just like, what the hell? And then the camera panned up.
Yep. So I watched it 2 times, and there were there were, I think, three subtle hints, but none of them would have told you. There was a, there was like an electronic sign on a tree that said, sunrise will be delayed 2 hours. There was a dialogue in the morning when he woke up and said, "Oh," to his neighbor, he said, "Oh, it's chilly today." And the neighbor goes, don't worry, it'll warm up." And he says, "It always does."
Right.
So yeah, there were some hints, but only like retroactively. You couldn't use that to determine it. Okay, so that's episode 1. We know now they live in an underground bunker, 25,000 people, president's been murdered. Oh, by the way, we should talk about the cast. Yeah.
Oh,
James
great.
James
James
Marsden
Yeah.
is the president, and Chris Marshall, right, who we know from For All Mankind, is the head of security.
Yeah.
Amazing cast. We go into more detail, and obviously there are some flashbacks, exposition in terms of we don't know exactly, like all good filmmaking, they don't like hit us in the face with exactly what happened, but we know that there was some type of catastrophic event, very similar to what I recall the movie 2012.
Yeah.
Remember when they made like the arcs?
Yeah.
So kind of like led by one particular very ultra wealthy lady. It seems as though there was some foreshadowing that this event, whatever it would be, whether it's nuclear war, whether it's a flood or something, would happen. And they spent some time creating this underground city. I've got a lot of questions about it. And then, they basically chose the 25,000 people. They've locked themselves in. And now we start to see that the 25,000 were not all selected based on, like, they didn't take like all scientists.
Right.
They didn't really take like the best of the best. They, in a way, took a sampling of people. And now we start to see why some people were chosen, to have like some internal advocates or let's say muscle on the inside. And obviously there's a little bit of now intrigue in terms of what kind of power games are going on, who would want the president killed, who's responsible for it, and so forth. I am 100% in. 100% in.
I'm super, super excited because I think what they've done really well. I too have only seen 3 of the 8 episodes that have been out so far.
Yeah.
That what they've done is they've sprinkled bits and pieces of what that extinction level event is. We don't know what happened outside.
Yeah.
And I'm sure as the series continues, we will learn what that was, including who did the murder and why did it.
What's your sense of the extinction level event? Do you think it's a nuclear event? Do you think it's an environmental event? Is it an asteroid? Like, we've kind of seen this in a lot of different other movies. Like,
I think it's a natural disaster of some kind. I don't think it's nuclear because they foresaw it coming.
True.
So I don't think it was like a sudden World War III scenario.
Yeah.
I think it was more like an asteroid is going to hit this side of the planet or in the next 3 months, or this is going to happen in the next 6 months. So that's why I'm leaning more towards that.
I agree. I'm leaning more towards asteroid. And I mean, we can give more spoilers, right? I mean, we saw, like, I think it was in the 3rd episode that one of the big reveals was there was a team that was sent to the surface to try to assess like what the situation is.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, when we looked at that very brief scene, it looked like very foggy or gray, kind of like as though there was like a lot of debris from maybe, I mean, it didn't look like there was a flood. It looked more like, maybe it was like a deep impact type situation. Yeah. And obviously that team was assassinated on the basis that whoever was pulling the strings actually didn't want the message to be that, the post-apocalyptic Earth is somehow still habitable.
Yeah.
It seemed to be bad, right? I mean, it didn't seem to be like, it seemed to be more like the Last of Us type of situation. Would you say? the blown out cities and
Yeah,
everything
yeah, yeah, yeah.
right. It seemed to be kind of livable. Like, okay, if you're out there, you could like, you're not going to die. It wasn't like Silo where you couldn't go outside because the air was so toxic, but it definitely didn't seem like it was like a habitable or like a enjoyable environment. So we haven't really gone into the psychology of the people that are within the city,
Yeah.
but there's been bits and pieces that at some point, and I think this is a real big issue. I mean, I guess realistically, if this would ever happen, that you can see that there's a lot of trauma, inside that city. A lot of people, everyone has lost a loved one, right?
Hmm.
Even if people came with their spouse or their kids, I mean, they obviously didn't get to bring all of their brothers and sisters or all of their cousins or all of their friends. I mean, it's I guess well acknowledged that everybody lost somebody, and generally the community has tried its best to kind of cope with that. But I guess we've seen it, in a few places that it's kind of like an underlying trauma that a lot of people happen, which is why did I survive? Why was I chosen? I wonder if, blank has made it safely if they're still out there and stuff like that,
Right.
which I think is a very realistic perspective to have. I mean, to ignore that in the show, I think is really to ignore the true feelings that people would have. We don't see that in Silo at all. And the way that they overcome that is that everyone's been in the silo for like hundreds of years, right?
Yeah.
So no one knows anyone, 5 generations ago who was, who died outside
From
the
who,
silo.
exactly,
Right.
exactly. All we have are the artifacts that are left, like that Pez
Yeah.
dispenser and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Silo obviously is much bleaker. It's dark. The Silo is not nearly as nice as the Paradise City, right? But I also imagine that the Paradise City over hundreds of years probably isn't going to maintain the same level of shine,
Yeah.
right? They seem to have their own hydroponic, food source. At some point, it seems that they're going to run out of alcohol unless they're
Distilling
distilling
it
their own,
themselves. Yeah.
right? But I mean, it seems like they're going to run out a lot of things. They don't seem to have a manufacturing presence. Maybe they've got 3D printers or something, but it just seems like now it's been what, 3 years, I think they mentioned.
Did they say 3 years? I don't remember.
I think when the lady was writing the eulogy for the president, I thought I read on her notepad, she's like, it's been 3 years since we've blah, blah, blah. So I think it's been 3 years. So they still seem to be in a very, I don't want to say a honeymoon phase, but like everything still seems to be new.
Yeah.
Here, it doesn't seem as though they've got like a repopulation plan. They've got, just like the name, we're in paradise. Everything is peachy keen. Let's try to like enjoy our lives and make it as normal as possible and enjoy our ice cream and our entertainment and the county fair and stuff like that. But I was really fascinated by like, I mean, if you just think about like the nuts and bolts of it, there was a lot of people constructing this thing. All those people had to know about it. How did they feel, were there stowaways? Were all those people promised spots? Were they all kicked out? How did like the door, you saw like the hangar of airplanes? I mean, that reminded me of kind of like the Terminator 2 or Terminator 3, where they went in that nuclear vault and
Yeah.
the helicopter came crashing in and they closed the doors to like seal themselves in. Like, I wonder how that worked. I just wonder, like, all those kind of nuts and bolts of the city, I think are fascinating. I would absolutely watch a show on that.
I hope that we get to see more on because they've been doing a good job with the flashbacks. I hope that they do that more
Yeah.
going forward so that we learn more about
Yeah.
everything.
But I have to say, that's also very good filmmaking, which is to show you just enough to like get you so interested, but obviously not like put everything in there where you're like, oh, well, that's disappointing, or that's
Yeah.
not the way I thought it would be, or well, now there's nothing else to see. I see how it went. Like there's that yin and yang in filmmaking where you need to give people enough. I mean, that's kind of like the purpose of like prequels, right? Which is we've always wanted to know like where did Han Solo come from? Like what's his backstory, right? And then suddenly there's the Han Solo film where you're like, Put it back in the box.
Yeah.
I didn't want, you know,
Yeah.
like that's the yin and the yang of stuff like that. Sometimes you have a great prequel and sometimes you have the prequel and it's like, oh, that's so disappointing. Han Solo is probably maybe the best example of that. Can you think of another one? But for me, it's Han Solo where you're like, man, that guy is so swashbucklingly cool and he's always got the right quips and he always gets a girl. Like, what's his story? Where did he come from? And then you watch it and you're like, oh, geez. Like,
Yeah, I didn't need to know that.
yeah. Okay. So this week, I think we had a very good week of Streamer Skip. We had Paradise,
Must subscribe on both sides.
and the studio, which you gave a must subscribe, I gave a mooch. So I have to say, the last time we have had two shows where not just that we both watched them, but we've had, multiple must subscribes. I think that's a very success. It's been a while.
It's been a real one.
Should be. Must subscribe is not given away
willy-nilly.
Easily.
That's right.
Yep. Willy-nilly.
I have good feelings for next week.
Tell us about it.
Very strong feelings for
Tell us about it.
Because next week you are going to be on Paramount Plus. You'll be watching the new Tom Hardy series, Mobland.
I'm so excited.
And I am watching a relatively, not new, but a relatively recent comedy on Netflix, A Man on the Inside with Ted Danson.
Ted Danson is ageless, huh?
I know. He looks so handsome.
To have 4 major comedies, multi-year comedies, very impressive.
Exactly.
So yeah, I've got good feelings about A Man on the Inside as well, which not to be confused with Inside Man, but yep, Man on the Inside. Okay. Pete, read off our YouTube, social media creds and all that jazz so people can ring the bell, like, comment, and so forth.
All right. Tweet at us at FNS Podcast. DM us on Instagram at Films and Stuff Podcast. But as always, the best thing you can do, like this video, subscribe to our channel, leave a comment below, and hit that notification bell in any order.
Oh, could not have said it better myself. I like the ending. Folks, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Stream or Skip. We had a really good one this time. Usually we say it. This time we absolutely delivered on it. And join us next week. We'll be talking about Mobland, A Man on the Inside. Pete, thank you as always. Listeners, thank you for joining.
Thanks, Ethan. Thanks, everyone.
Have a good week now. Bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.